Hello.
Hey, we were talking whiskey back in our back channel, and I thought, well, shit, we might as well go live with it. Some people enjoy talking about whiskey, you know.
Yeah, you was talking about monkey shoulder and, the definition of drams and daily drinkers and that kind of thing. Whereas I was thinking, daily drinkers, like, somebody that is not a bourbon aficionado. I'm a daily drinker. I drink about a half pint a day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like old Sarah Palin said. It's like putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. And
what? You put lipstick on Sarah Palin, you get the same thing too.
Yeah, right. I'm not here to judge.
Hey, what?
Hey,
what?
I got a quote for anybody you want to hear. I got one from Hillary Clinton too. It takes a village. So there you go, Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton. There you go. So I'm a man. I'm a broad man. Hey, but back to something important. Whiskey. You're right. I'm drinking monkey shoulder, and of course, like I said, I'm not a huge drinker. I do like a daily drinker. Like if right before I go to sleep or something. Sometimes if I'm not every day, but sometimes I like to have a little dram of a monkey shoulder. I like that. I like Buffalo Trace, their name brand. I like Wild Turkey 101. I like those drinks, and I like to play with other. I play with all kinds of those. And most of the time, if you know me, I'm gonna give the bottle away. I'm gonna have a few drams from it, and I'm gonna give it to somebody because of the fact that, look here, I've been blessed with that bottle, and it's beautiful. It's 12 years old. It's I shouldn't be selfish with it. I've heard old men talk about, well, I wish I would have shared this 90-year-old scotch I had with somebody important. And you should. Share that bottle. To me, it's like, now a lot of people can't. There's a lot of people in my life that if they have a drink, they're going to be drunk for days and days at a time. They're going to be mad. They're going to be angry. They're going to cheat on their wife. Just crazy shit. But I'm talking about like someone who's, capable of just having a slug here and there. It gets heat. You take it away out of your life. I don't know. I enjoy now that I'm older, and I don't know that I could have done the way I do things whenever I was 20. I didn't even drink when I was 20, but I don't know that I could have had an occasional drink then without wanting it more. But I'm older. I'm like, hey, sometimes it's Friday afternoon. It's been a long week, a fun week. I've been in baseball parks and parking lots and municipal buildings and business offices and vehicles all week, and now I'm sitting on my front porch with about a half an ounce of monkey shoulder scotch, which is a 3 malt. It's like a blended whiskey, but it's got 3 single malts in it, and they're kind of Highland influenced single malts. They're all from the Highlands, I believe. And of course, one of them is the Glenlivet. It's in it, and it's a very beautiful drink. I love the Glenlivet. Just whenever you can afford to buy a bottle like that, it is great to have around. Sometimes you can get like little pint deals of it for like $30. It's great to get one of those. If you can get it, and just slosh it in a glass and have a few sips on it. And it's got this. You're getting something that some of those are 23 years old, so it was in a barrel or a couple of barrels for 23 years. Sometimes they'll put them in there for 10 years and in like a previous bourbon cask, which is a barrel. No, cask is another name for a barrel. And they'll it may have been Wild Turkey, who knows? And then like it went over there and it had that scotch in it for a single malt in it for 10, 12 years. And then they'll put it into another barrel, a sherry cask or port, which is wines, and let it sit there, and it it changes the color, it changes the way it tastes, it changes its chemistry because it goes in and out of that barrel. But now it takes longer in Europe, in Scotland, than it does in Kentucky. In Kentucky, you can keep it there for 8 years. It's the same thing as 12 years in Scotland because of the temperature variation. Although I will say, not to step on anyone's toes, but there's some changes going on in reference to climate change. But anyway, that's where I'm at with it. Now, you and I talked about monkey shoulders before. Do you remember us talking about it before or no?
No, I don't remember. I mean, we've covered several, and we talked about the 1794s and the wild turkeys and the buffalo trace, and Elijah. I don't remember the name of it. We've discussed several. I just don't remember monkey shoulders. Maybe I had partaken too much of one of them that we were sampling that day. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, that's always a possibility. So, anyhow, yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, exactly. Of course, the thing of it is that it's unless you're like really into studying this stuff. And like to me, I as you and I have spoken before, back in 2021 during the winter, it was cold all winter. So I got into studying George Washington and all of the founding fathers of the United States. But on George Washington, I went off on this huge tangent because I found out at the end of his life, George Washington was the biggest distiller in the continental United States. This guy was producing like 11,000 gallons of whiskey per year, and that was rye whiskey. It wasn't like corn whiskey like we have. Of course, he's a little bit further north in Virginia up there, and of course, in the days, and actually they were in the little ice age whenever he was living. So they were raising different things. So yeah, he was a big whiskey maker, and he barreled some, but a lot of it they just barrel it, but it got sloshed around between wherever it left and wherever it went to. And that was about all the barrel aging it got because it was a huge consuming of alcohol back in those days. I mean, in fact, as he was president, a little before that, the biggest thing this guy ever interfaced with was that whiskey rebellion, and it was taxing whiskey. Hey, I love the study of whiskey and the study of America.
Oh, I know it.
You don't know America unless you know whiskey. Do you hear me?
Come on. Yeah. I was kind of giggling like you talked about with the aging process back during that time. Guy comes in, takes a sip. Man, that's kind of smooth. How old is Earl? How long did it take you to walk across the street?
Yeah. It just came out still.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so much smoother than yesterday's batch.
Hey, there's actually stuff that is aged like that. As long as it hit the barrel, I don't care if it's for 24 hours or 6 hours. There's some stuff they can call barrel aged if it sat in a barrel.
Oh
you
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
Well,
there's a lot of stuff like that. It's like tequila. So one thing that you and I talked about was that Casamigos, which was what's his name?
Clooney.
Clooney. George Clooney.
George
yeah.
Clooney. Yeah.
And he got rich off of it, but I'm glad he did because that is some delicious stuff. I just recently bought a bottle. I've only had this one dram from it. It's Hornitos. But now this one, I've only had that one thing. Just one little, I haven't got to sit down with it, smell it, just enjoy it. Like when I get a bottle, this is one of the things I want to explain.
You like to molest it, right? Okay.
Well, you can say that in those words, yeah. But I want. It's like a woman. As we get older, we appreciate those women, and we want to let them know we really care about them. And I reflect that in everything I do,
there you go.
including the whiskey bottle, because
there you go. See
that thing, and you smell it, and you see how it smells, and you shake it around, you see how it bubbles, and you see how it sticks to your fingers and how it smells on your fingers and how it sits and smells versus how it smells out of the bottle. You get that neck going, get down to the shoulders of the bottle, and you let it sit there overnight with the lid off of it or something, and you get that sweet, look, yes, I love to play with my bottle. When I first buy it, sometimes I have to pull the cork driving down the road. I want to smell it. I'm not going to drink it, but I'm going to smell it. And I'll smell that thing. It's like sending love letters to my wife during the day. Like when you smell that thing all day, or you talk to him all day, and then at the end of the day, you get to experience it. You read about it. I listen to YouTube videos about it. I learned about that particular whiskey, and to me, it's again, we were laughing about the barrel age with George Washington, but whiskey, it's in. There's a lot of it sold in the United States of America. There's, we talked about one time about, how much money we spent on, bacon or whatever, which was like 18 billion. But with alcohol, particularly whiskeys, we spend 920 billion per year. So that's a lot of whiskey sold. Even now, even though we're talking about AA and NA and all this kind of business, there's a lot of whiskey sold. There's a lot of people that drink lots of alcohol. But now, it's a rich history. It's an unappreciated history of our country. It is what has financed every war. It's financed basically everything. The way that the laws are built around distilleries, and it's such a high profit business that those guys don't mind paying their taxes, and they pay lots and lots of it. Now you can go in and dissect alcohol and say it's bad, and I know that for a lot of people it is bad. And good Lord, I pray they never get in touch with it. But it's a very fun thing for a lot of people, and I hate that it carries such negativity with it. It started out as a medicine a long time ago. In fact, that's one of the things I want to get into. Are you ready to go deep into alcohol for a second, or no?
I'm just waiting. Go right ahead.
Well, I want to talk about medicinal alcohol, because I started reading. I got this one book. It's called The Technical History of Bourbon or something like that. And this thing went in and dove deep with Prohibition, which was like, how many years was it? It was like a long time, like 20 years or so. And they were talking about. It was a long time, but like 1920 to 1914, and I don't know, to 1930. 23, whatever. We can look it up. I'm not going to get stuck with technical years, but during that time, all these distilleries, this was employing a lot of people in a lot of counties all over the place. I mean, all over the Midwest, all over the South, all over the East Coast. A lot of people, a lot of professional jobs were in whiskey making, and a lot of people used a lot of it. And so they, just like they've done with this cannabis or marijuana or pot prohibition, the way that they brought it back into mainstream, and pot hasn't been prohibited for very long. I mean, it's been longer than it should be, in my opinion, but hopefully we're on a tide if we can keep America going in the right direction where we can have a little bit more freedoms instead of rolling back all of our freedoms. But during Prohibition, the medicinal alcohol business grew dramatically. In fact, whenever you go into a liquor store and you see bottled in bond, that's a lot of government regulations. There's specific things that have to happen with that bottle. It has to be the same distillery, the same time, the same season, stored for the same amount of time. I mean, there's a lot of rules that go into bonding and bottled in bond. So there's it's even tricky to say it. So you can imagine to do it. So the big thing though is that what I've seen with cannabis or marijuana, or pot, or whatever the hell you want to call it, is that it's the same thing that's happened with alcohol back then. Is that it was brought out initially as medicinal again. It had like a time to rest for people to kind of see what was going on and to see what people do without it. Kill each other, get on the back door, ship it in from Mexico or wherever. The crazy shit that happens when you prohibit a very popular substance. And so they back then they brought it back into mainstream again by having a medicinal version. And actually, it really helped out the business a whole lot because it put a lot of rules into effect. In fact, Japan had a lot to do with the whiskey industry in America, particularly bourbon, because they were sending off this inferior whiskey, and the consumers of corn whiskey wanted something more consistent. They didn't want moonshine colored with tobacco juice. I mean, they wanted aged bourbon. They wanted the Kentucky corn barrel aged bourbon. They wanted the good shit. It's like whenever you go spend that $32 on the bottle, you want the good shit, or 60, 100, whatever it is. But anyway, I'm geeking out. I'm sorry about geeking out on it. You know, it happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all right. I mean, it's a passion for you, so there ain't nothing wrong with geeking out on it. I know that, the history that I've learned more about it is, been from you, just our, like you say, getting into it for contrasting of opinions and colors and tastes and those types of things. And as far as like the prohibition and the medicinal uses, you look at Coca-Cola, it had cocaine in it. They found ways to get it in there because, people were miserable. And when people are miserable, that is a accepted substance. Because they go back to some folks just look at how long it's been around, so it's been accepted, and so they want it. They're going to get it. There's going to be somebody that can supply it and risk it for the money, then you're going to get prohibition. Then, when you're talking about with the marijuana, you're right. It's something that for some reason, there were standards that were set against it. You was talking about George Washington times and him being a king of the liquors. Well, there was a bunch of it was the king of the hemps, and then you had the cotton farmers, back and forth, and hemp originally was outlawed due to some of that political infighting between cotton and hemp. So there's a whole bunch of that history that does go through these prohibitions leading up to us today, a bit being more accepted as a mainstream, not as the gateway drug it was portrayed originally, but as something that could be a benefit to most people if used reasonably responsibly, type thing. And going back to medicinal use of alcohol, it's that same thing. There's bad ways to be used. There's bad ways that it can be used against and for people. If it's used responsibly, there's nothing wrong with it, for someone to, imbibe that, whatever amount they wish to take it, whatever time they want, done responsibly and in a safe manner.
Yeah, it's just so weird to look at cultural differences, of how things were. Of course, back in, George Washington's time, water was probably in worse shape than it is now, which you can imagine how bad that could be. But anyway, so, people drink many times more than we drink now, which is a lot, because that's what they did. And I saw this video of the day of how much alcohol Winston Churchill imbibed every single day. So he drank a pint of Red Label Scotch, Johnny Walker Scotch, before lunch, and he drank a pint of champagne at lunch, and then throughout the day, in the afternoon, he had another pint of Johnny Walker Red, and then that night he finished it off with a brandy.
See, all that proves is, the quote by Freddie Mercury about humanity is a condition that requires a little anesthesia.
Yeah.
You need something, because how you got stresses, you got times, and you got stuff. Everybody needs a little, during the Churchill times, I can fully expect needing I need my pint this morning,
Yeah.
But so
at least he mixed it with water,
Oh no, they probably made theirs with tea, tea and Johnny Red Label,
Yeah. Hey, I like Red Label. Red Labels are good. It's not. It's not something I'd want all the time. But it's like if I'm in the right place, and all they have is a Red Label, as far as a Scotch, and I want a Scotch, I'm drinking it. In fact, I bought a bottle every once in a while just to have it, because it's not quite Johnny Walker Black. Johnny Walker Black is one of my favorites. I love it during the winter. But now
the Black is good.
That Johnny Walker Black is good. The story of it's interesting. The guy that blended it, he was a distiller. He sold the family farm and bought a grocery store, and that's where you got your whiskeys at. The barrels, and he would blend up all those scotches. And he had that Johnny Walker Black blend, and he had a certain taste profile that he developed from different parts of the country. and brought them in. Well, anyway, so there's our. That's a good way to finish up. We started out with monkey shoulder, and we'll have to end with some that Johnny Walker Black. You know, kind of know where. One little thing, monkey shoulder. Let's talk about where the name of that came from. What do you?
Yeah, go ahead. I have no clue. I mean, that's why whenever you said it, I thought you said monkey show originally, and I'm like, well, okay. Now I'm like, shoulder? No, go ahead.
Well, you know, malted means that it's like a barley. So it's like it actually, you're actually starting production of life. In other words, you it's like a potato when it starts growing roots.
You sprout.
So
you start the germination process to start the sprouting. Right. Yeah.
That's right, and you have to turn it a lot while it's doing that, and while it's
right.
dry.
Got to dry. You're right.
That's right. So you get it germinated, and that's a good way. You know, a good way to put it. It'll make sense for people. You get that barley germinating. Keep it wet for a while and hot, and then you got to dry it. In both of those situations, you have to turn it a lot. And used to, whenever Scotch was being developed, human beings went in there and turned that barley, that malting barley, with their arms and with shoulders and with their shovels and such, with their shoulders. And a monkey, it messes up your shoulder, so it's called a monkey shoulder. So like that stuff is about it's about a workplace injury is where it came from.
I got you.
So that's it. That's where monkey shoulder came from. Because that's that malted barley. It's not like aged. It's not like corn or anything like that. But anyway, jump off. I appreciate you spending some time talking about this with me, man. I'm gonna call you right back. Okay.
All right, bud.
All right. Bye.